Welcome to Stories and Songs, a series of interviews featuring inspirational musicians from the world of jazz and improvisation. I'm Andrea Keller, and I'm thrilled today to be talking to Lisa Parrott. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, thank you.
Well, I've got three questions, Lisa. The first one is, what have been the pivotal events in your musical journey?
So, wow. Okay. One very young one, when was a neighbor who was a trad jazz bass player who he still lives across the street from Mum and Dad's. He gave me a cassette tape of Sidney Bechet, and I was hooked on jazz from then on. So that has to be a pivotal moment. I at the first listen of it, I feel like I hadn't actually heard jazz before then, and so obviously that was a big thing for me. And it and I think the next pivotal point was I moved to Sydney in 1988 from Newcastle. I played with some really great musicians in Newcastle, but in Sydney in 1988, well, actually before I moved to Sydney, I don't know how, but me and my friends were quite obsessed with Bernie McGann. My friends, I'm talking about, my sister was playing bass, Andrew Dickerson, who teaches at Sydney Con, John Foreman was playing piano. This is a group we had, and Adrian Mears, the trombone player. That was our group. And I remember going to, this was before I moved to Sydney, to Taree. They were playing at an RSL club, the Bernie McGann Quartet with Bobby Gabbett, Jonathan Swartz and Poche. And there was hardly anyone in there. This was 87. There was hardly anyone in the place, and they were just playing the most incredible music. I remember a really fast rhythm changes, and at one point it was a B flat rhythm changes, and Jonathan was like pedaling a G flat. It was it was one of the most out times I've ever heard Bernie. It was incredible. The whole band was just really going for it. It was amazing. Fast forward, moved to Sydney, the year of 88. I went to every one of Bernie McGann's gigs that he did in Sydney. Probably about at least 3 times a week I heard him play. A side note, when I first moved to New York in 93, I was living, I sounded very much like Bernie when I was younger. I still feel like I sound more like Bernie than anyone else. And it was interesting. I got here, it's like, wow, no one's heard of Bernie McGann. That means I can play like this and no one's going to compare me to Bernie anymore, just Ornette. Anyway. Speaking of Ornette, Cameron Undy introduced me to Ornette Coleman in 1988. Now, I was already in love with jazz, but when I heard that music, when I heard the harmonics, specifically, pretty sure it was Rambling was the first tune that I really just I don't know, I was just blown away by how it sounded, just not just conceptually, just the freedom, but not just freedom, but also a lot of light, a lot of joy, a lot of happiness in the playing. And I fell way harder than I ever had before for improvised music, and specifically jazz. And from then on, everything was filtered through learning tons of harmonic tunes. At one stage I knew probably at least 50 Ornette tunes, at least. So everything was filtered through that from then on. So I think personally for me and my musical development, they were pivotal moments. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And what obstacles have you had to overcome during your musical life, and how have you dealt with them?
Wow. I don't even know where to start with that. For me, music was actually the clearest part of my life from a young age. And all the difficulties I had growing up and my background and everything like that, personally, family life and all sorts of stuff, that the way I felt playing music taught me how I wanted to feel in the rest of my life. And I still feel like that. I'm always trying to match that feeling. So for me, I feel very fortunate that I feel like I had a clear vision musically from quite a young, from a young age comparatively. And that, for me, that wasn't the barrier. For me, it was more personal barriers that I had, not musical barriers. They would include being a woman in this industry. I'm never going to know the full extent of like opportunities missed simply because of my gender, because I cannot be on the flip side. It's that classic, always ask thing, what's it like to be a woman playing jazz? I love Maria Schneider's answer to that, which is, well, I've never been a man playing jazz. Oh, no, I think that was maybe Sandy Evans. Sorry, I'm getting no, Maria Schneider, her reply was, what's it like to be a male journalist? So the thing is, it's hard to be on the flip side of that. I just know that, like, you can't sort of divorce who you are. It's all part of it. I think it took me a long time to come to grips with that side of thing, and just trust that, well, I'm just going to let music lead the way. Yeah, there's definitely going to be barriers. And I've definitely faced a lot of barriers. I don't know though. You can dwell on that. What I've had really good advice though from some people. In the early 90s, there was a women's jazz festival in Sydney, and my group was asked to do it, and I was thinking of saying no because, I didn't like the idea of simply funding. There was funding for a jazz festival featuring women, and it was like, well, why are we focusing on gender? Why can't we just focus on music? That's been my thing all the way along. Then Sandy Evans said to me, she's like, well, I used to think that way, but now if me being on stage encourages another young woman that they can do it and that they, can express themselves and have a career in music, if me being on stage encourages that, I'm going to do that. Yes, I changed my tune right from then. And I've been involved with WeJo over the last couple of years, Women in Jazz organization. It's a network of women, professional women jazz musicians from around the world, but we were having in-person once a week meetings. It was I think it started in 2017. Yeah, I think early 2017, right when Me Too was hitting, but it happened, I think, slightly before that. It was an idea for some like-minded people to get together. I did learn a lot. I also got to network with a lot of women musicians. We talked about a lot of stories. And what was crazy was like, I really appreciated that. I didn't realize that I was craving that sort of camaraderie between women musicians and just swapping stories and, ideas about how we've, had to deal with sexism in the workplace or whatever it might be, yeah. Anyway, I could obviously rave longer about that stuff, but
that's a fabulous answer. Thank you. And do you have a motto or a personal philosophy that guides you, or is there any particular advice that you'd like to share with younger musicians?
What age group are we talking about?
13 to 21.
I do teach a lot of younger musicians here in New York, from the age of 13, actually. I was just teaching them in the Whisper Room today. Um, um, not really specifically, um, I just think music in general, there's so much joy in it. Just don't ever lose sight of the joy in the music. Like, be happy, you know. If someone gives you a hard time, remember, like, it's supposed to be about the music. It's not supposed to be about whatever that other issue was. It's all about, you know, making music. I'd also really encourage people to get together and play with people. If you actually realize, hey, I really want to keep playing this music, like, for a certain amount of time, whatever the amount of time might be, get together with your peers and play. That's the biggest thing I got out of the Sydney Conservatorium, the jazz course I did, was I still have strong relationships with those musicians that I met in college, and we did a ton of playing together. Don Burrows was the head of the con at the time, and that's what he encouraged. It's like, it's us teachers can only give you so much. It's all about you guys get together and play, and we did a lot of that. And I would really encourage people to throw away the play along. Get a rhythm section, and just play with each other, play music with each other. There's certain things you can get obviously from practicing by yourself when you're working on stuff, but that shouldn't be the main thing. Jazz, especially this music, is all about connections with people, and that's been the most beautiful thing. I've had the most incredible experiences that I could only have had through being a musician. I've toured all over the world. I've seen all 50 states of the here. I've gotten to meet celebrities and play for them, and play at Carnegie Hall, and all sorts. I've got to experience, and when I've traveled, I get to travel as a musician. So I get to travel where locals will take me in Italy, the promoter will take you to the most incredible restaurant that you would never know as a tourist, to go to. There's so many experiences that tend to be unique as a musician. Like, they're the little perks, I'd say, of being a musician. You really get to really experience the world, but through music, which, I don't know, I'm obviously biased, but yeah.
That's wonderfully put. Thank you. Now, would you mind nominating a song or an album that you've played on or you've created that's particularly significant for you, and maybe just tell us a little bit about it so that when we listen, we have some insight?
Well, I haven't done a lot of recording of my own music. I've done a lot of recording of other people's music. One that's very dear to me, well, probably my favorite album is the last album I did, which was 5 years ago, Round Tripper. And there are two other Australian musicians on that, Carl Dewhurst, guitarist. I probably wouldn't have recorded that album if he hadn't coming to town, and I was like, oh, you're coming to town, let's go and record for the hell of it. Like, it was a spontaneous session that ended up becoming a recording. And Nadia Nordhaus, she produced it actually, and was also playing on that one as well. But 2001, me and my sister did an album called Awabakal Suite. Awabakal is the name of the people and the land from Lake Macquarie, where I grew up, the village of Lake Macquarie, and Awabakal people died out in the 1860s, and that was, I don't know, that was something for the native people from there. Yeah. Right. So that one's me and my sister. That one's, I love that one, obviously, because my sister's a great bass player, and she sings now, but that was before she was singing. So yeah.
Oh, great. Well, we look forward to listening to them. Thank you so much for your time today, Lisa, and for all your wisdom and great advice, and for sharing your story with us. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it.